your school board meetings, or whatever's going on locally in your towns. All women really need to get out there. Don't send your husband, okay? We have to get out there. We have to let them know moms don't want more gun control. Moms want their kids to be safe, and that's just, this New York Safe Act is going to make everybody laugh. So that's one point, is that we really have to get out there, because the media is going to try to snatch this up and turn it into a women's issue. And the reason they're going to get away with it, if we're not careful, is that most women don't really, I would say they're not anti-gun, they just have no opinion of guns. I mean, most women aren't really into guns, and their husbands may not own a gun. And so they're sitting there thinking, well, I don't know, I don't really own a gun, why should I care about this? And what we need to do to let them know is why they do have to care, okay? So these are the 3 points that I use when I talk to people, and I just want to share them with you if they're helpful. You know, everyone can frame it their own way. But the first thing I always say is, look, we are a nation of laws, not a nation of men. We have a constitution, and the right to keep and bear arms uninfringed is in our constitution. So if somebody doesn't like it, there is a process to change the Constitution. It's a long, painful process, and it was meant to be that way, because we were not meant to be ruled by emotional mobs who decide all of a sudden they're going to get emotional about something and say, that's it, we're taking this right away. It was meant to be a long, drawn-out process to involve the public as much as possible. And so if there really is, and I don't believe it's true, but if there really is popular opinion that we should not have this right, let them go through the proper channels. Let them go and try to ratify a new amendment to the Constitution and change it. But until that happens, we are not going to we're not going to let our rights get taken away by some law that's obviously unconstitutional. And but as we all know, this law violated not only the content of the law, it violated our state constitution, but also the process used. There's supposed to be a 3-day aging process for all bills for the same exact reason, so that we are not ruled by an emotional mob. And what happened? In the darkness of night, they went and just took our rights away, just like that. We're supposed to stand there and accept that. And so the point here is, okay, you don't like guns, you don't have a gun, you don't know why you should care about guns. Well, what right do you care about? Because if they came after this one now, what are they going to come after next? So that's why people who don't like guns should care about what's going on right now. That's one point. The second point is, there is a reason for the Second Amendment, as we all know. Our country was founded by an amazing group of men. They could have set this country up so that they were kings, and they didn't do that. They set this country up so that the people would have the power. They set up a government with 3 branches of government, and so those 3 branches could keep each other in check. But the people were meant to be the ultimate check on the power of the government. And how can we do that without the Second Amendment? That's why it was put there. And so my favorite quote for this point is by Thomas Jefferson. He said, the beauty of the Second Amendment is that it won't be needed until they try to take it. And my is when they do try to take it, you'd better notice, because there are no good intentions there. Why would they be coming after this right? We should all be very concerned about that. And then the last point that I make is the content of the New York Safe Act itself, which we all know. I know I'm preaching to the choir. That act is not going to keep us any safer. It will do nothing but to make us less safe. And I just want to illustrate how dangerously absurd these anti-gun people are. Because in my town last week, they held a solutions-based community forum on school violence. Okay, held in my town's high school auditorium. I thought, I'm going to go and hear what they have to say. They had a panel of experts up there. They had a state trooper, a teacher, a PTA mom, a teacher, did I say teacher already, a psychiatrist, and it was hosted by the League of Women Voters. Okay, so you know what said was the whole forum. And so the League of Women Voters legislative expert was also up there. And we were all in the audience allowed to write down index cards and pass them to the front. Somebody posted a question, and the question was, do you really think that criminals are going to obey that law? And everybody on the panel kind of chuckled. And the woman from the League of Women Voters, the legislative expert, she said, well, the key is going to be about enforcement. And so I just sat there thinking to myself, myself, this just shows how dangerous and what their thinking is. How are they going to enforce criminals to obey this law? The only way to do that is to catch them in the process or after they commit a crime. So we're just lambs waiting to be slaughtered.
So all the criminals are home right now reading the law to find out what they're going to get charged with.
Right.
Right.
Right. I'm going to go in and break into this house and inside, but I put only 7 bullets.
You wish.
Because Cuomo just passed that law. That's not going to happen. And so what we are basically is bait. We're bait. And we're somehow going to catch the criminals as they come and get us because we've been disarmed. Well, I'm telling you something. I'm not bait, and none of you people are bait either. So that's not going to happen. I'm not on our watch, right?
No. Right.
No
way.
So I just want to mention a couple of other things. Number one, we all need to stay in touch. We need to join up with other groups. Somebody, I think, already said this today. This is not a Republican-Democrat thing. This is really, the Second Amendment, I really think they picked the wrong side. The Second Amendment is going to unite all of us, okay?
Yeah.
And so we need to find out who is for the Second Amendment. It doesn't matter if we don't agree on every issue. We need to work together and move forward and take this thing. And so I just want to say, everybody get involved, and whatever it is you can get involved in. One way you can get involved is to join your town committee, whether it's a Democrat committee or a Republican committee. Just an example, you know, like I just joined my Republican committee in my town over the summer, so now I'm a committeeman. And one of the major goals of the committees is to vet candidates. And so a lot of towns tend to be concerned with really mundane stuff like who's the town supervisor or the mayor. And you might think to yourself, I don't really care who's the mayor or the town supervisor. But as an example, Kathy Marchione was the town supervisor for the town of Half Moon. And then she became the Saratoga County clerk, and now she's a state senator who's fighting this thing. She voted against this thing. So it actually matters who your town supervisor is. You don't know where they're going next. And so the best thing to do is to get into your committees and vet them now. Okay? Don't let them move on, and then you find out what they really believe. Okay? So getting involved in your town committees is one idea. There's lots of local groups like the Campaign for Liberty, the group I'm from, Upstate Conservative Coalition. Wherever you guys are from, I know there must be local groups. And there's a Facebook group that we set up that if you give us your information, I will email you the link so you can join it. But that's the whole purpose of that group. It's called New York State Second Amendment Groups United. And the whole point of it is to get everybody on the same page so we can work together and really fight this thing. Okay?
You mind if I throw something out? You mind if I throw something out? Okay. There's I don't know if anybody's seen it, but on the internet there's a place or an outfit called the Million Mom March against against assault weapons, something like that. They've had several events, things like that. They're heavily covered by the media. They claim to be grassroots, but if you look at the website, it is extremely professionally done, and they are obviously well funded. All right. We are grassroots, and what we're talking about here is if you can get involved on the local level. In Ulster County, we managed to get one resolution squashed that was going to ask Obama to do something, but they never even specified what, and replaced with a resolution that is now very strongly in support of the Second Amendment. We're working in Orange County to do the same thing. I know Saratoga County has been working hard. So the county legislatures, the town legislatures, there's a place to start, because if you can get that kind of stuff rolling, these guys have got to listen to that. Okay?
You're right.
This grassroots, this Million Mom thing is phony. It's nonsense. They shoot if you look at any of the videos, they shoot the stuff, and they claim that there were thousands in the Washington March. There were like a couple of hundred. There was one guy on the internet, his name is Adam Kokesh, and he does a website called Adam versus the Man, and he walked around that thing with a sign. He says, "I'm a gun owner, let's talk." And typical to most liberals is they don't want to talk. All they want to do is yell at you. And so he had a very logical and, as we know, well thought out plan and ask questions, and all they wanted to do is call him names and yell at him. Take a look. You'd be just totally offended by the way he was treated. So thank you.
No problem. Actually, on Tuesday as well, there's going to be another big rally here. How many of you guys think you'll be able to come?
The 12th, yes.
The Million Moms for Gun Control are having.
Here?
They're doing something inside that building, I believe. Tuesday.
Oh, great.
And there's going to be a press conference at 12 o'clock. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a group of moms, just moms, or women, I should say, with signs that say stuff like "Prevent Gun Ownership."
Terrific.
Firearms rule.
Yay.
And you know, my sign will say, "I'm a mom of 3 kids, and I support the Second Amendment," because I want them to know I am a mother. And we're going to go out there. We're just going to be very peaceful, and we're just going to kind of hold our signs up. We're not going to disrupt anything, but we just want them to see how many of us there are, because we cannot let this affect people. Okay, if we do that, we'll be in big trouble.
This is definitely a woman's issue. If there is a war on women in this country, it's this law. If there's anything in the world that makes a woman equal to a 200-pound man, it's a firearm.
Absolutely.
To
Right
take
on.
firearms away from our women is abominable.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Make them victims. That's what they want.
Okay. So is Robert Barr here? You're Robert Barr. Okay. You're up next. Thank you.
Hey.
Good afternoon. My name is Barr. Some of you might recognize it as Browning automatic rifle. I served 21 years in the United States Marine Corps.
Hey.
At no time was I ever called the militia. At no time did I ever sign any document saying I was in the militia. I was in the United States Marines, and I swore an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Yay. Yes.
2 years ago, Ronald Reagan said that freedom is 1 generation away from being killed. But with that, you also have to take the converse. Freedom is 1 generation away from tyranny. My father survived in Denmark when the Germans invaded during World War II.
Wow.
He would have been killed on sight at a rally like this. He would have been killed if he went out at night and broke the curfew. He would have been killed if he had a firearm, any type of firearm, any ammunition, anything that he could use to resist the tyranny that the Germans were inflicting on his country. He fled there after the war and came to the United States, where he met my mother. My mother survived the war in the Philippines, where the Japanese killed unarmed civilians as they retreated from the United States Marines that were retaking the island.
For fun.
My grandfather stood at the front gate of their house with a machete to keep them out. My grandmother stood at the back gate with a broken bottle. That was all the weapons that they had. The Japanese would throw a Molotov cocktail into the house. You either stood in your house and died, or you came out and got shot. And after the war, they came to the United States. So you can see why I wanted to join the Marine Corps and protect this country.
Yay. Thank you.
I've heard things like there's only a few of us here. Well, being a military historian, I know that 300 stood against millions at a place called Thermopylae.
Yep.
You may have seen the movie. It doesn't matter how few you are. It matters how dedicated you are to a cause.
Right.
Being out here today shows me that you're dedicated to a cause. The cause of our Second Amendment rights. I also am a motorcyclist.
Right.
The president of a chapter called ABATE, Association of Bikers Against Totalitarian Enactments. We fight the laws that restrict motorcyclist rights. Think you have it bad now?
Yep.
I look at what they're doing with the gun laws, and I look at what they've done to motorcyclists. If they have your name and number for buying ammunition, they're going to come and inspect your house to make sure that you have that ammunition.
Yep.
You don't have more than that ammunition. That you don't have ammunition you're not supposed to have because you don't own that, you haven't registered that kind of gun. This gives them the right.
Take my gun.
This gives them the right to inspect you. Your freedoms are gone. Where'd you go? I was told I had 5 minutes, so.
Oh, you're doing beautiful.
I'm doing good.
Take all the time you need.
I'm just honored to be here with all of you. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, nice job. Thank you.
Okay, look here. It's Bong here. You're next. Bong is from Occupy Albany Civil Liberties Initiative.
Figures.
Yeah. Morning. I'm Fong from Occupy Albany Civil Liberties Initiative, and just want to get this out front. Want to do a mic check?
Mic check!
Mic check! Just want to lay it out on the table. I'm a liberal. I listen to NPR. I'm in my car on the way here. Happens to be a Subaru.
Get him!
I had to fight the urge to bring my tribal drum, but I did bring my tent just in case. I've never touched a gun. To be honest, they kind of give me the willies. But what makes my spine tingle more is being outgunned by my government.
Hey! All right. Common ground.
Our founders provided us many mechanisms to maintain a balance of power between the people and its government. But for years now, we have seen these checks and balances subverted or cast aside. We have watched the rise of the fear industrial complex and the militarization of the homeland. We now find ourselves in a nation that now routinely spies on its own people, that subjects its citizens to undue searches and state-approved molestation, where you are allowed due process and a trial as long as the president doesn't decide otherwise.
Right. Yep.
That is preparing to control its people with more roadway checkpoints and by expanding its own arsenal to prepare for civil unrest. All considered, I can't think of a more dangerous time to take arms out of the hands of individual citizens.
Right. Yay!
So how did America get to this point? Did we remain vigilant as the stewards of our own freedom? Or did we give in to fear and choose safety over liberty? Do we lie close to the last safeguard the Founding Fathers provided us? A physical check and balance. The well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Ask yourself, how will you leverage your power against tyranny? I can't even hit a wiffle ball off of a tee, so I'm probably not one to be handling a gun.
Anybody can.
But in lieu of that, I offer my thoughts and my voice to fight to preserve the Bill of Rights. The whole Bill of Rights.
Yay! Right.
In the hopes that we never have to take up arms as the Second Amendment allows us. There were liberals and conservatives who both signed the Constitution, but those 10 unalienable rights were the foundation they all agreed upon. It is crucial that we work together to restore the Bill of Rights, or we won't have the freedom to debate each other on the other issues of our day. As has often been said, the beauty of the Second Amendment is that it will not be needed until they try to take it. It is inspiring to see so many of you standing up now that they are trying. I beg of you to remain standing, remain united, to help restore all the liberties that have already been taken from us.
The people! The people united will never be defeated!
People united!
Yay!
How you guys doing?
Good.
So I'm trying to come at this with a different perspective. I'm a dealer up in Saratoga. We just started dealing with regular civilians like you guys this year. Before that, it's strictly military and police sales only. So we'd like to continue to sell to the people.
What's the name of your business?
Yeah, I was going to say, where are you located? You'll see us typically we're at Saratoga gun shows. We can't do the Albany shows because the law is here. So again, typically you guys talk about the legal ramifications of this law, the moral implications of, again, like the women's rights. Briefly, you guys touch on the technical aspects of registration and the 7-shot capacity of the mags. I'd like to talk also about today the real implications and the side of the 7-shot magazines, the registration period, and again, the technical side of things. Now, you always hear about on the news, they talk about progressive. Well, they talked about when they passed this law, progressive limitations. That is limiting your rights slowly, piece by piece. Now, you guys probably had 20 years ago 15 shots in your magazine for Glocks, Berettas, things like that. Then they said, you know what? You can still have those if you want to pay a premium. Go to the shop and pay $100. Otherwise, you're stuck with 10 shots. So why does it matter how much money you spend for what kind of rights that you have? Does that matter? It shouldn't. So now they're saying you can't have those 15s. You can't have those 10s and transfer them to somebody else. You're stuck with 7. So you're going from 15 to 10 to 7. Now, why would they do that?
They want 0.
That's right.
So here's a couple numbers that they can't debate with. The first one is, on average, in 40% of the shootings that people are involved in, regular people, 6+ shots are fired. So that means you're only going to be able to defend yourself against one guy 40% of the time. 8+ shots on the national scope of things in the United States are needed 25% of the time. So that means you're not going to be able to save yourself 25% of the time under the new law. Guaranteed. That's a fact. So after the next shooting, there will be more shootings because crime never goes away. It doesn't matter what kind of laws they pass. What are they going to limit you to? 3 shots? 2? 1? Or 0? You can't stop crime through legislation, and they should know that. The major question is, why do the politicians here get armed security, state troopers, sheriffs, and anybody else with no limitations? They can have whatever kind of guns they want, any capacity. Well, that's great because they're to save lives. Why is it their life worth more than your life, or your wife's life, or your kids? There's no reason for it.
For us, the police arrived just in time to draw a line around the body. Right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. So they don't do anything.
So what the SAFE Act has done has made for a divided society with different classes. Where's the equality now?
Some of us are more equal than others.
Yep.
Right.
And outside of the bedroom.
Now, for about all those guys in the military that have served, like the one previous speaker that's in the Marine Corps, why do you trust those guys with M4 carbines, M249 saws, or 30-round mags, or 200-round belts, and the urban streets of Baghdad or Kandahar or wherever else to defend themselves and those civilians? But when they come here to Albany, they're stuck with 7 shots to save themselves. You trust them over there, but not here. So that's not right.
Over there.
Now, as for crime here in the United States, D.C. was the murder capital of the country for years. Luckily, they've turned things around a little bit, not much though. Statistically, you're safer in Baghdad than Washington, D.C., even during the midst of the war on terror. How is that right? Next question I'd like to pose to you guys is, how is this new bill total registration? They said you only have to register guns that got certain features, or if they think it looks scary, whatever else. And the other question is, how will this totally stop all private transfers? Now, this is something that I don't think has been touched on before, and I'd like to explain why that is. Now, all ammunition sales after April of next year will have to be recorded and reported to state police. And they said, if you buy a certain quantity, they'll start an investigation into you. That's a scary concept.
What's excessive?
So what quantity will start the state police investigation? Is it 5,000 rounds? Is it 500? 50? 5? It's a slippery slope. Each time it's a reduction, just like the magazine capacity. Now, once your local shops close, okay, like Zach Sports, or you got B&J's, whoever else, once they close, who's going to do all those transfers between you and your neighbor, or you and whoever else in your family? If you want to pass down a gun, you have to have a transfer done. You can't go to Dick's Sporting Goods to get a transfer. You can't go to Walmart get a transfer. You're stuck with that gun. If you die, it goes to the state. Okay? So support your local shops because you're going to need them.
And they send it down to freaking Mexico to the drug cartel.
Yeah.
And shoot our own people.
Now, the same thing goes for ammunition. You're going to have to do a background check on ammunition. Doesn't matter if it's 5 rounds, 500 rounds. Okay? They're limiting the cost of dealers. What they can charge is $10. Now, a lot of these small shops, they got employees. They can't afford to do that transfer for you.
Right.
They'll go out of business. And all you're going to get stuck with is Dick's or Walmart. And a lot of those guys are already saying we're not going to do sales after April. Because they can't afford to.
Law states you guys don't have to do it if you don't want to anyway.
Exactly.
So if y'all say don't do it, then it ain't going to get done anyway.
So now, the technical aspects and the legal aspects is what I'd like to talk about. Now, what's the liability of these modified mags? Now, I read the bill. I called the hotline every day, a couple times a day. I've talked to probably every state trooper in the investigation unit. I couldn't get one answer as to what's acceptable to modify your mags. They didn't say if welding was definite, riveting, epoxy, it doesn't matter what it is, they can't give you an answer. But they can remind you on the phone, they have reminded me that if you're in possession of a magazine over the 10-round capacity that's grandfathered in, they can and they will charge you. How are they so sure of that, but they're not so sure about the method of making it legal? So, will these politicians that pass this law have blood on their hands if someone dies due to not having the rounds available to defend themselves? Or because of a magazine failing in a time of need? So this is a major liability issue. It doesn't matter if you pass a law in regards to car safety, airbags, doesn't matter what it is. If they pass something that says this is required and you die because of it, there's typically a lawsuit. So this is something they better think about. Because if there's those guys at home, they got a gun, they're trying to stay legal, even if they want to abide by the law, they can get killed. So these are serious issues that they have to really think about. It's too late for it now, but we can hopefully get this thing repealed. So they say, well, there's no confiscation in this bill, and that's not true. I say that because if you own an AR-15, you own some sort of AK-type clone, something like that, or even if you got something like a Sega with a muzzle brake, it's automatically an assault weapon now. I don't see how that is. But the thing is, I say you have until a certain period to get them out of the state or register them. Now, the confiscation part comes into play is when you die. When you die, what happens with that gun?
Property of the state.
Exactly, property of the state. And in the bill, if you read the bill, it says that upon death, your estate has to be categorized and a list made of everything in your possession, guns and ammunition, types, models, makes, serial number, everything gets reported to that state. So how is that not registration right there upon death? How is it not confiscation upon your death?
Right.
The answer is it is.
They want
So
to be the last generation of gun owners.
that's exactly
Yep.
And that's the problem is with the 94 ban, they passed that because people said, oh, it's okay, I can keep my gun. Yeah, you're right, you can keep that gun. And you can pass it on to other people. This law here, you can't do that. So, again, that's basically taking the guns out of your hand,